So here e5 is very strong. So maybe you could argue that intuitively, getting all the pieces connected and in the centre and preparing for this e5 now is of course the logical, most effective time for this break. You could argue that, and you could back it up with some concrete analysis as well. So here, knight g5 takes. Now why is it so good here, you're wondering? Well, in this position there'll be bishop f3. So why did the knight have to go to h5? Why couldn't it have gone to e8? You might be wondering as well. So let's put the knight on e8. Right, in this position, let's try this knight g5 again. Bishop takes b7. Now there's a couple of alternatives, bishop e4 or bishop c6. Bishop c6, and white actually apparently is doing very, very well in this position, with the promise, say, of d5. In fact, d5 here just loses e5. What am I talking about? Just knight takes e5. White really wants to play f4 first, then d5. So f4, and now d5 maybe? Maybe d5 now, or even knight e4. So this would be a big advantage to white. So what's really happened there for white to have a big advantage? Well, the light square bishop is good on these light squares, because black has fundamentally weakened c6 earlier anyway. So it's that bishop's doing a sort of protective, role on these light squares. So to get rid of it is a strategic, triumph. It's increasing the existing, exploitability of these light square weaknesses. So that is a missed opportunity that I didn't play e5. But because he was playing this cat and mouse game, I thought that I'd carry on waiting as well. So rook fe1, queen b8. And now finally I am tempted to play e5. But immediately after this, in this position, knight e8, I go again instructively wrong, I think. So there's another pawn break available here. Making sure that black's pieces are not extended in scope or don't have nice roads to use later. And namely, d5 would have been a great move. For example, takes, and if you look at this structure here, look how these pawns don't facilitate use of the c file for black, and there's pressure on e6. So I've got the open roads and the pressure on black's position, but black hasn't got any sort of open roads and pressure on my position. And that's the key thing about this strategic break, I feel, that I've misplayed it. What I did in the game was, for some reason, I played e takes d6. I think my reasoning at the time was just to open up the blasting rook to be able to play d5. But really I'm giving black a very, very comfortable position, because he plays c takes d6, and after d5 just simply plays e5. So he's closing my road into his position. So all he has to worry about is potentials for knight e5, especially after my next move. But the key thing is, if he can neutralise that pressure, he's got an inroad into my position, the semi-open c-file, like in, for example, the Sicilian defence. Black would have the semi-open c-file pressure, and he's got the potential for the knight c5, and also I've given him a powerful break idea later of b5 to undermine d5. So I've strategically gone wrong, but I still maintain a small advantage here, and I played bishop a3 with sort of the crude tactical threat of knight e5, and if knight e5, rook e5 takes, bishop e7. So he guards against that. Queen b1, and it's here he can use his own break now to establish almost equality. He should maybe play b5. And in this position, if I try and be greedy, well, queen takes c3, and if I do something passive, say queen b2, then just rook c8. So black's totally in the game, black's totally fine. The previous provocation has all worked, and I haven't given myself anything decent to work with. I've just given black an open c-file road, and I've closed up my e-file road. So in terms of strategic pawn breaks, it's been a bit of a disaster. So I'm going into a worse position now. And not only that, he's got a road on the c-file, he creates a road on the f file now, because I thought I was being clever now with this g4 to try and get a knight to e4, and maybe, you know, swing it across and highlight these light squares. But he plays energetically now. Well, first rook b8, eyeing my queen, which I don't really like. So I get, well, I ignore that for a moment. I play knight e4, but now bishop a8, rook ed1. Just trying to hold things together. Maybe if b5, yeah, I'm threatening maybe c5, so I'm trying to hold things together at the moment. But he plays energetically now on the f file. So as well as a potential c file to work with, he's doing a nice break on the f file. And in this position, rook at f4, if he had just retreated his rook to f8, that would be perhaps a little bit safer than rook f7, but rook f7 is fine as well. And in both cases, black, according to Rybka, is now better officially. Black is better officially. And look at the roads, you know, black has got the f file and the c file roads. So this is a case that the previous pawn breaks, and especially the e5, which was on a number of occasions could have been used, although I did eventually use it when my pieces were well placed for that strategic break, the follow-up was not good at all with e takes, c takes. This structure is favouring black now. And I make things worse with this king h1, because f2 is a potential liability. And here, also my king is now on this diagonal. A very, very logical move for black would be b5. If he had played b5, black is starting to increase the advantage. So this could have been a totally different game outcome. So say in this position, knight g3, black's got nice counterplay, b takes, say rook takes, knight c7, look at that, d5 is now weak. So it's not too hot. Although maybe in this position knight f5. So okay, maybe black has to be a bit careful. It's not totally easy. But black's definitely done well from the previous position. However, in the game after king h1, he plays a blunder which immediately gives an advantage to white, which I pounce on actually. I wonder if you can spot my next move here if I give you 5 seconds starting from now. Okay, I play knight g5 and I've pounced on an advantage tactically, because if knight takes, then it's a mate in 2, queen takes, and then either knight e6 mate or queen h8 mate. And if the rook moves in this position, then knight e6, forking queen and rook. And then in this position, I wonder if you can spot, what would you play here? Well, it's knight takes f8. Even if it wasn't attacking the queen, I think, sorry, my point was, even if it wasn't attacking the queen, knight takes f8, it's still a good move here. Because knight takes, can you spot what white could play here? If I give you 2 seconds. Okay, it's queen h7 again, because again, even though you're losing f8, there's queen takes h5. So really, he's lost the exchange. He's lost the exchange. So finally, I have an advantage now, after starting to get an inferior position.